Welcome back to the channel. All right, in a little over 16 hours, the Titan Crystal is going to change over for the significantly better in a game that keeps asking us more and more for RPG counters, somewhere between soft and hard counters in the ability sets. We've got a lot of them in this Titan, and that is why this one's going to be so phenomenal. Not only we got some kind of like basically mid C-level champions leaving the pool, there's some bangers too, but the new champions coming in combination with the ones that have been added over the last two changeovers, this crystal is bonkers. Even I have hoarded 120,000 and I got a Nexus too. I'll be doing the opening on that. We're going to go through and grade every single champion that's going to be in this rollover. Let's get to it. All right, the first champion in the crystal that we'll be talking about is HeatlyBros. He's a solid B, right? I know there's people who absolutely love him, would put him up in the A, and just so you know, we're gonna be doing A, B, and C, like letter grades in school and those sorts of things. This is a solid B champion. I know people love him, can take him up. He can run the recoil tree. He can affect the opponent's ability accuracy and can completely shut down their evade. That is still incredibly powerful in this game. Can cut through resistances, armor ups. And like I said, you can run with recoil, the bleed damage, the guaranteed crits. This is a fantastic champion. He's been in the game long enough. I'm not going to give a sliding scale. This is definitely, in my opinion, if you pull him and you don't already have him, definitely a B champion, does not need to be awakened. I don't think you really want multiple pulls of him though. Maybe the single awakened ability, but that's about it. So if you've pulled him once, congratulations. The next champion we'll quickly talk about is Red Hulk. He's like a very strange put in this crystal to even begin with. He was kind of moving out of the meta in any way, shape, or form before he went into this crystal. I think it's just the way they could add him. Not only was he most valuable in war because of certain hazard shift modes, but like the map changed and they removed those hazard shift nodes, and then the map changed again, although I think they're going to go back to the old one. I'm not saying you can't use him for anything. I'm saying that the class is phenomenal. We're doing the top 10 champions in each class, and then of course the top 3 in the whole game. We do it every June and December. I've already got science out, and I didn't even think about putting him in the honorable mention. I kind of don't even want to give him a C grade. This is the only champion that in my opinion is below that, but let's go ahead and give him a C. If you really enjoy him, you can find some uses. The next champion is Spiral. She is a fantastic champion. Really got sold and billed as like a serpent counter. She was part of that big, massive champions in the Mystic class that was put out in the tail end of 2024. A lot of people do not enjoy playing her. She has like this style of play where you almost want to play her like Mix Master, where you're alternating your combos and things like that. Depends on which day you catch me. I really did enjoy testing her on CCP. I have not gotten her at all though. I've opened Titan Crystals, just have not gotten her. And I've gotten plenty of Mystic champions that can handle Serpent. Now here's the thing though, if you pull her, one, definitely play her. This is a solid B champion. I think there's a world where she raises to an A, and I think it'll take an extremely long time for her to fall out of the meta or something like that and be a C. Like this is a solid B, potentially an A. If you pull her more than once, do not despair if you like her, because her signature ability is actually really good. And you can see there's reason to want that escalating sig. You can see the second bullet point there. Incoming shock, incinerate, and poison debuffs are reduced by 5 to 10%. I know that doesn't sound a lot, but that's per fervor on her, and she can get a significant amount of them. So if you are fully new to this, you're looking for serpent counters, you're looking for a Mystic champion that can take those kinds of lanes, and you pull her multiple times, do not despair. You actually may have a champion where you actually really want her at high sig. Solid B, potentially an A. And now we move on to Scream, another solid champion. This is a solid B, very fitting for the meta. Makes sense because she's relatively new. This is what we're talking about, where the game is continuing to shift. They're evolving it, right? And these champions are starting to fill up the Titan, which is why this one's so good and why the Titan, I think, is going to continue to be amazing unless they put in a bunch of Red Hulk. Don't do that, Kabam. It's a fantastic champion. There, every once in a while, someone will comment on one of my videos that I don't rate her high enough. And the reason they point out, and I get it, is her damage capability, especially quickly, is insane. It's immense. It's incredible. It's bonkers, whatever word you want to use. I really enjoyed testing her on CCP. You can see I don't have her on my live account, so I haven't played her in months. But I remember that there was a way to use her auto block mechanic to create openings and just go in and absolutely destroy the opponent. I think she's a champion where, like, if you really like her, you like massive damage, you don't mind awakening her and getting a lot of them, because I think it's this last bullet point. There it is. Against tech champions, each stack of madness reduces the opponent's ability accuracy of armor ups you can get up to 25%. Now, she's not someone I would put 6 stones in, because while I really like playing her, I don't know if she has enough RPG counters that are being asked, or RPG abilities that are being asked for in this game to make her someone that I want to invest highly in. That being said, I know a lot of really smart players who love playing her, who are happy to invest in her. So I won't be upset if I pull her, but she's not someone that you're going to see in my video like dying to want to get. But if I pull her, I'll be happy to rank her up and explore her. I think a solid B. I don't think she's going to be an A champion, and I definitely don't think she's going to be a C either. All right, now we're on to Jack O'Lantern. I'm making sure the first full A in this video. He is so insanely meta relevant, does tremendous damage, has great utility. That is the RPG ass role-playing game. That's what that is for. That is being asked of us. I just did the video I'm like, Jack's stocks are way up. Now, one of the things that happens a lot on this channel is I am obviously in the CCP, so I know champions maybe like a few weeks before you, or I get to test all the new ones. Like you can see, it was 2 champions already in this video that I don't personally have, but I got to test them on CCP. So I'm able to kind of understand and know like where this is going, what defenders are asking for. Jack has so much utility in his kit that he was initially in all of our minds, hey, we've got a full onslaught counter. But what's happened, and I remember saying this in the review video with him, is if you build a champion to counter onslaught has so many threats that champion's almost certainly going to have abilities that are relevant elsewhere too. And we keep finding it, and it's even happening. Jean Grey, who we're going to get to in this video, I think is going to be a phenomenal dual threat in Battlegrounds. I think she's going to be insanely annoying to fight. Not only tanky, but can just put delirium on you. Like just it happens when you knock down her shield, which you have to do to damage her enough. And then a 50% upon her specials as well. Meaning you don't know for a fact. This isn't like Emma Frost, where you just learn the special evade and get it done. Jack has all that damage. He's so good for all of the big current mutants and even some of the past ones too. He's an absolute A, and the only way he falls down to a B is if the meta just continues to evolve via nodes or mutant defenders being put out, and that will take, in my opinion, years to take him down from that sort of pool. I love Jack. If I didn't already have mine at Sig 40, he'd be one of my most wanted pools in this crystal. Moving on, the next champion we'll talk about quickly is Rintrah, still one of the largest, if not the largest health pools in the game. Insanely tanky. Now, on the downside is, in Battlegrounds, more and more champions in the science class have come out who can take him. I even took like him with a Chiel the other day. This is in a meta where he's shrugging debuffs, right? He being Rintrah. Still takes a while. If you get him awake and he starts to get that power gain. Now, I know a lot of smart players who don't like him awakened. In my opinion, I loved playing the 6-star. And I loved having him awaken. I loved having him at Sig 200. He has the 300%, it's that 300% neutralize, right? Against science champions, or against cosmic, sorry. So that's a really big deal in a game with like plus ability accuracy, like Serpent with his 125% and things like that. So this can handle it. He just doesn't crit a lot, right? Having him as a 7-star will be really helpful because of the stat focus you can utilize. For me, he's a solid B champion. He is a solid B. He's in the game long enough where I feel very comfortable with that. If you really want to use him a ton and really invest in him, sure, you could push him up to an A. Remember, we're evaluating being questing, long form, short form, story, EOP, the whole thing. And then, of course, Battlegrounds with War being more of a bit of a tiebreaker. But he is a very, very good champion, a solid B. I don't have him. I would like to get him, but it's not one of my most. Moving on, we'll talk about Okoye. She is a B or an A. And I know some of you are like, there's half of you who are like, dude, how's she not an A? And there's half of you like, dude, how's she not a B? And I think it's going to come down to 2 things on the way you look at this. And I'll tell you the way I'm looking at this is, one, I just want a couple months, and I do want a couple months go by where there's nothing with her updates in the patch. Like not her prestige, not her abilities, not her signature ability, like nothing like that, her ability to evade specials. I think Kabam has landed on where she's supposed to be. I feel relatively confident in that, but yet I felt confident in that before. If she remains exactly as she is, right? I think you've got a sure A minus B plus. Does it really matter if she's an A or a B starter champion? You want her, right? We've been over this significant amount. She's phenomenal in Battleground. She's got the ensnare debuff. She's a great bullseye counter. She obviously is semi-difficult to use because people keep dying against my Photon, and this has been over multiple metas now. But she's got the combo with the extra hits I know a lot of people may not enjoy. And the reason why I pulled this up is if you pull her once, yeah, I think you do want her awakened, right? You see that first bullet point there. That's a part of why. As we get more mastery points, as our account levels grow, I think that will be very helpful because you can then put them into dexterity or something like that and helping her against Mystic champions, should that be what you want to do. But if you don't have that, Battlegrounds isn't your thing, run with Shuri, and it basically gives her awakened ability, and you're just fine, and you're good to go. She's a fantastic champion. Like I said, I think it depends. If you're like a Battleground fiend, she's probably an A. If you're not, she's probably more of a B plus sort of champion, and we'll feel more confident on that when we get a couple months under our belt with no changes to her. Moving on to Joaquín Torres, the new Falcon, another champion I don't have. I think you can see a common theme here is I just don't get to open that many Titan crystals, and they're new, right? So these are ones I'm hoping to pull. He's a C for me, right? And the reason he's a C is while he does have a lot of RPG counters in him, a lot of those abilities, the damage is often a bit lacking. You want him awakened, and you want him at the, I think it's at the higher sig, yeah, because he can start the fight with a slow debuff. He has one of the best like slows in the whole game if you can get him at a high sig, because he just starts to fight with it. This isn't like Red Guardian where you got to throw the special one or something like that. Not that that's too cumbersome. I think one of the issues with Joaquín Torres was it seemed like he was intended to be a bit of a Enchantress counter with his debilitates, but she's such a, let's call her a tricky defender, that you really just need to shut her down, or you need to be kind of an OP champion like Titania. I think he's a solid C. And remember, for me, that's not an insult. C is like, that is a champion that if you want to invest in them, you're going to have a really, really good time if you like them. I know a really smart player who she loves using this champion. She does great things with him. I see the screenshots. I see the videos. So he is very, very effective. And it's kind of why I didn't want to give Red Hulk a C, is because I do consider Joaquín Torres to be significantly more updated, significantly more part of the meta, counter more of that ask that the game is asking us right now. And so, yeah, he's a C, but a good C. Keep that in mind. Next, we'll quickly talk about Spidey Supreme. For me, he does want his sig and he wants it high. And I can't, in good faith, suggest that you invest that much in this champion in a class that is so outrageously good. Again, we've done the best Mystic champions already out. That is out. You should check it out. And best of my recollection, he doesn't even make the honorable mention. And a lot of this is just like, he came out at a time where he was very effective. He was a little squishy and those sorts of things. And what he did was cool. But the Mystic class, as I said, Serpent came out, and then over the course of 2024, the tail end 2024 and 2025, I think we've gotten 6 Mystic champions that have just completely pushed the class forward. And really, in my opinion, Spidey Supreme has been left behind. He's a C. He is definitely a C. If you really love him, you can do some cool stuff with him, maybe pushing him up to a B, but I think that's about it. And now we get to one of my most wanted pulls. I currently have him as a B, but before you turn this video off and yell at me in the comments, I want to be clear, I don't have him, right? There's another Titan champion I don't have. And my recollection is I was not able to thoroughly test him when he came to the game. I think I may have been on vacation. So a lot of this is like watching Grass's videos, MSD's videos, and other people like that. They've shown very cool things. I think you do want him awakened though, and I want to explain why. If you just want him for defense and Battlegrounds, he does not need it. However, there's obviously offensive potential in this champion, and part of it is like getting the opponent in the corner and heavying over and over. If it's a PvP mode, you getting that unblockable from the second bullet point will go a very, very long way to you getting around like the stand your ground mastery and making that loop significantly more obtainable and basically just work. Grass has shown, I think he has the pre-fight ability right here. Yeah, that can special lock a champion. He's used that to take out enchantresses. I actually really do like this champion. Like I said, he is one of my most wanted pulls. I do think he's going to be decent in war, potentially. Again, it depends on what tier you're playing. Obviously, one of the best defenders in Battlegrounds right now. And then if you have the ability to turn around and use him offensively, that's my ideal champion. I personally, the way the game continues to go, I want to fill my deck with as many dual threat champions as possible so I can have as flexible of a draft as possible. And then I think it's very clear. And MSD, if I recall, I'm pretty certain on this, showed Zola in long form and medium form doing tremendous damage. This is an absolute A, and I have very little hesitation with that, even though I don't have him and haven't really been able to play him since some very light testing when he first came in the game. The next champion we'll talk about is Dazzler. Now, she was part of the battle pass. I was able to thoroughly test her, and I remember telling you, she's not the best mutant in the game, right? The top 10s will come out, and you'll hear that. She's in the top tier, though, in my opinion, and I was very confident in that, right? I said you definitely want her awakened, okay? She's a good damage dealer without it, so if you pull her and you don't awaken her, don't despair. But it's the second bullet point, the first bullet point. During her hits, Dazzler takes no physical damage. Now, that at SIG 1, that just kicks in. Now, with the escalating SIG, you see I can take in mine to 180 in thoughts that I may pull her, right, and take her to SIG 200, and I didn't want too far above that. Now you're reflecting that damage. That's core, right? That's a Tuma, that's Killmonger, or a Node that's doing something like that. And then the second bullet point, the pursuit. I will admit, I still struggle against bullseyes. Now, part of that is we keep having metas that are increasing his power gain. So it's been a little more difficult for me to keep the pursuit up and things like that. But I do think it's doable. I see extremely high skilled players pulling it off. So it is possible. She is a phenomenal champion. I've done multiple videos on her. And like I said, you are definitely going to see her in the mutant top 10s when that comes out very, very soon. Oh, I think it's obvious, but an A. Absolute A, no doubts. Moving on to Gentle, I'm reluctantly putting him at a B. I really don't see a world where he's an A, and I'm saying reluctant because to me he's the downside to a game that's turned as much to like kind of a card game in my opinion. The hard RPG-esque is that he came to the game. He seems so obviously tailored to Bullseye, but not like Jack, where it's something that like, oh cool, there's all this like utility and damage sources that I can see all these other places. For me, it was very much like I had trouble thinking about where he's going to be used. And then sure enough, we have a meta with like Stun and Reflection, and there's a Node and War. And it's like, okay, cool. And I do think that's good. Kabam should give places for him to be relevant and used. And I like that. But like even his pursuit happens when like he's bled or something like that. And it's from the Bullseye hitting into his block. And it's just very tailored to Bullseye. He can do a variety of things, Gentle's immune to bleed, and while performing wall time blocks, he is stun immune when immunity triggers or when the opponent purifies or cleanses a debuff, gain a pursuit. So you can see two skill champions that are purifying or cleansing. So I like Gentle. I see his value. Is he someone that I'm going to be elated to pull? No. And now we get to the champions coming into this crystal. I think this is one of those B+, A- champions. I actually think she's going to be an A, but I will admit it's not there yet. I loved testing her. She was fantastic. She's not a pure nuke. Now, she can be quick in Battlegrounds, but she's not a pure nuke outside of like a Tuma, right? A champion that is like constantly purifying her debuffs and allowing her to really ramp. But here's the thing, we've talked more and more about like RPG counters, right? I'm saying this more and more. I think it's really clear as that, and I want to get that out there. She has Daunted. Daunted is something that's asked for by a defender that we're going to talk about in just a minute, who is like the new bad. This is like the new Bullseye. It's extremely difficult. People in Celestial are running 6-star rank 5 Ascended in the last Battlegrounds meta. Jean also has her whole forceful mechanic. It seems like potentially an even better version of Invisible Woman's. And then she's got Neuroshock damage, which also happens to cut off the miss abilities. She's fantastic. I definitely want this champion. She's a dual threat. We talked about her Delirium as well in this. It's going to make her a defensive ask outside of being tanky. She's going to throw you into reverse control. Part of why I love Jack. Part, not why. Not all of why, but part. You're definitely going to want her awakened. And I do think her escalating SIG, meaning like as it goes up, will be great. But you can see the first 2 bullet points, you just get at SIG 1. So that's fantastic right there. Something to keep in mind. She is one of my most wanted, right? We've got Zola and then now Jean Grey. Moving on to Bastion. Now, for me, he's one of the biggest wild cards in this. I loved testing him. Once I fully grasped what he was all about, and I started to really see the potential and the damage, there was a few things for me where I felt like he was so tailored to mutants, and even his heavy, right? It's his heavy gives him the pursuit passive. I found it more of a struggle to keep up in non-mutant matchups. So you really had to make sure you could parry and then heavy into it, or find ways to land your heavy. I felt like needing to utilize it in non-mutant matchups did influence his flow. Now, if that's the worst thing you can say about a champion, you're probably talking about a pretty great champion. He's not as good as some of the older mutants like Havoc, or I think it's Bishop, if I recall correctly. Not phenomenal against Domino, although he can do it. But the new ones, he's going to be fantastic for. He is a robot. He's good for Bullseye. He heals back, bleed, and poison. We've seen him doing large amounts of, I'm talking like millions of health pulls. It's like Dazzler sort of thing. Also going to be a nuke in Battlegrounds. I don't think he has much defensive threat as people get used to his mechanics and his abilities and moveset. But as far as an offensive champion, I think you've got a fantastic weapon. I personally want him. I just think he's cool. I also just think he's really, really cool. He's obviously very powerful. I think war players are going to want him because of his ability to just like turn off hazard shift. So if we see that in Battlegrounds or in questing, he's going to be phenomenal there as well. I will want him awakened. You see that's part of what the first bullet point, which will make this go over into the hazard shift. And then that fury, I found that really did at a higher sig, really influenced his damage in a positive way. So for me, not only is he an A pool, right? I think he's an A. I really do. I just want to see it first. That's why I like the tier list. And when I do the top 10s, you're gonna see him ranked where he's at. Is like, I want to see it. I want to experience it hands-on in game. I don't have him. Another champion I don't have. But I think it's pretty clear he's going to be an A champion. And I think the way the game is going, he's only going to become more valuable. Like he's very much in the early stage of his value in MCoC. All right, I'm going to stop saying the champions I don't have, because I think it's pretty clear. I just don't have the rest of them. I do have Cyclops, but you know. To me, he's a B, and that's really interesting. This is an example of champions with Galan, those who aren't looking at the screen right now. That, you know, I talked about how me and the Illuminati, we can prognosticate what a champion will be like when they are 6-star locked. But then when we actually get to test them, we get to see it. And I think there are still going to be plenty of matchups where Galan is going to be ridiculous. I think you do want him awakened. I think there's a dual threat in Battlegrounds. I think his nullify immunity in the Cosmic class is obviously insanely rare, right? Pride's immunity is Fate Seal and nullify effects. Remember, there is a cap on his like harvest damage, and that can only be increased by your ranks. You can't boost it and make it go up. So him coming as a 7-star, really, really powerful. And here's why, so I know all that's like, so he should be in it. And here's why he's a B, is what he does isn't necessarily being asked for quite as much in questing. Remember, Penny Parker was just like destroying the world. And that was one of the reasons why Galan came in. It was just such a godsend for most of us. The tech class has moved on. Not only are there champions who like your block, the unblockables or whatever, like all these different mechanics, but there's also champions who have like a safeguard mechanic, or they heal back, or the damage is capped at this, or protection. And so that's going to hurt Galan. He's still amazing. He's still great. I will be happy if I pull him. But I think he's a B. I think he's on not the back half of what he's valuable for, because unless the game just fully moves into, you know, safeguards and protections and damage caps with every champion, I don't think that's going to be the case. He's just not going to be the dominant champion who could take anything and everything for you. Spider Jess, I'm calling her Spider Jess, she's the other kind of huge wild card for me in this one, in that I know players who absolutely love her. I do think she looks like she needs a back brace. I don't know anyone who stands like this. Feels a little strange to me. Like I don't know what's going on there, but let's not worry about it too much. It just is unusual. Why she would be drawn that way is, you know, she is so insanely unique. Like she's got the power stings, right? And then I think if you get her awakened, no, it's photon. She has neutralized immunity. She has ensnare, which it just feels so unusual and strange, right? Like I was using it because I went to test her in preparation for this video. You could use it against like Bullseye, but it only comes for like 7 seconds. It only comes every, like there's just a lot of really unique stuff in there. But here's what I will say, is that when you just kind of focus on playing her, you punish heavies and you punish special attacks with combos, you get your fury buffs and those sorts of things, and you throw your special 2, and then you go in, you throw your special 1. You put a lot of power stings on defenders and they die. And so all these other things, all these like other moving parts or abilities that I can't say for sure, like here's where you're gonna like the ensnare. I'm like, is that just a thematic thing with spider champions? I'm honestly, I'm being very clear. Like I know it's to counter evade. What I'm trying to figure out is when I play her and I do videos on her, telling you like, here's all the cool places where I've been using it. And what I'm like thinking about this or kind of compartmentalizing it all is, She's great without me having a clear way or reason to utilize those things. And so if and when I find them, she's even better. So she is at least a B+, probably going to be an A champion for war, for questing. The damage is clearly there for quest. I have no concerns about that. And then in Battlegrounds, she appears to have enough defensive threats through an evade, and then her SP1, she puts this like fumble on you where you can't dex out of it. So you're gonna have to like take it to the face basically and block it. So without a true counter, it looks like Endurance may be the counter for her. Without a true counter, she's gonna be a real pain on the defensive side too. High quality champion, definitely one of my most wanted. I personally want her awakened, and I will want her at high sig because it replaces the fury buffs, which she does lose on her own. And then she's got a wither. So I know a lot of you are like, dude, a science champion is gonna be bad against mystics in PvP. She has a wither when they fall off or they're removed. So that way it will significantly lessen the amount of power the opponent will get from Mystic Dispersion. So don't worry about it. And the escalating sig, they turn into passives. So you're good to go. The next one we'll talk about is, I think, going to be a meta-defining defender. She's like the new bullseye in Yelena Belova. I've done the new champion video on her. I think she's a fine attacker. I think she's fine. If this was purely attacker, I'd have her like B- territory, B, right? If I was going to, again, use her as an attacker, I would want her at least Sig 1 while Yelena is in elimination mode. Her target cannot evade or cause attacks to miss. So basically, if she's an evade and miss counter, that's really great. The thing is, you need to get to elimination mode. Not that that's impossible, and when she's on defense, it's going to happen more than you want it. Trust me on this one. But it does take her a while to get into that mode. When she gets there, though, she does respectable damage. She's a defender, right? And she's asking for Daunted. She has like damage caps. This is why I said Jean Grey, I think, not only comes in as a good champion, but she comes at a time where Yelena's coming to the game in the Titan, and with the Daunted, I think Jean is going to be one of the better champions, or if not the best answer to Yelena. So we'll have to see how that goes. Your high tier Battlegrounds players, there's a reason why they were ranking up their 6 stars or opening up all those crystals so they could get the 7. Oh, so for me, she's a B. She's a solid B. She's not one of my most wanted asks, but if I get her, I will almost definitely rank her up, throw on Battlegrounds defense, and learn to fight her in hopes my opponents don't ban her. And then the last champion is none other than Cyclops. This was a phenomenal buff. And, you know, I am on record. I have said, I've talked about it, that like, I think his signature ability, it currently feels like a waste, right? Like a lot of us would thought, okay, the thorns and the adrenaline, and then Nico has come out, and you know my thoughts on Nico. And she has just blown this away, right? And what it's done is it's kind of caused me, because they've come out in such quick succession to each other, I think I'm thinking about this wrong. And I'll explain what I mean by that. Cyclops has that whole stoicism mechanic, right? And he can get those intercepts. He's influencing the aggressiveness of the defender's AI. And then he's got this true focus buff, which obviously can be nullified, but if you lose it, it's really easy to get it back. And I've shown this in a short, and I'll continue to show it in videos of like how powerful true focus is for Serpent. It's amazing. And so what I'm realizing is, if I compartmentalize, or I think about Cyclops' signature ability as more of like, hey, that's a cool thing also, kind of like I'm thinking about Spider-Woman, instead of being like, oh, I'm going to take him against Korg and Atuma and Killmonger. Or if I make a slight mistake against one of those champions, it's going to help me out a little bit in questing or war or in Battlegrounds too. If I think about him more as like, what's he doing for the future? I think there's a real spot for him, not just as like a fun champion. I'm not saying he's going to be in like all the high tier Battlegrounds decks, but what I'm saying is like, I have him from the double track. I will be ranking him up. And one of the biggest uses for me is going to be that true focus buff. I love Professor X. I think Professor X is a phenomenal champion. And one of the things I love about him is he turns off evade and miss. This feels like an updated Professor X to me. I get it. It's Cyclops. I was pumped for him too. I wanted him to be everything and everything. Like, I really did. But once I get over that and I accept what he is, he's a much better champion than I was giving credit for. I think this is a solid B+. Thank you so much for watching. I wish you luck on your opening. Take care.